Okie dokie. I think we have audio now. Wow. I'm just going to start over. I warned, if the microphone had been working for the first part of this broadcast, then what you would have heard me say is that I'm still a bit of a live streaming noob and still learning how to work the controls by myself. I guess I didn't pre-flight check the bits and pieces well enough ahead of time, which I'll give myself a pass on this one. Thankfully, I guess it's not often that you say thankfully no one's paying attention. But I think we have, or I think that for posterity, hopefully this will come across okay. Anyway, what I was just harping on was to say that like the thing that we're trying to accomplish here at the Crypto Flight Path is to be a resource that reaches people and helps them understand things they might not know today, or they might be confused about, or things that they're interested in, but they don't necessarily know how to go about getting more information, and would benefit from having a resource. And we want to become a resource that people trust and can look to, and then help others, help their friends, their family, colleagues, coworkers, people you like, people you don't like, get onboarded into this whole crypto universe. And all I was trying to say earlier as well, while the mute was going, good gravy, I'm trying not to laugh at the same time as I'm broadcasting here, and we'll look back on this hopefully and have a nice chuckle. But what is the point of the Crypto Flight Path? One of the things that we did before we started live broadcasting was to think in broad spectrum, almost in terms of thinking like, what if we're going to try and have some sort of legacy impact? You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm not, retirement age, somewhere in the middle. But I'm old enough now to start to, every once in a while, it creeps into my thinking about like, what am I leaving behind? What's my legacy personally? There's a billion and 7,000 other examples of legacy in other people's lives. I mean, all I'm trying to communicate here is that when I think about like when I'm, elderly, perhaps is one way to say it, and I'm looking back and reflecting, I want to know that I had some sort of really positive impact, and was able to share something of value with the world. And I've been involved in several different projects in my life, and not all of them were really all that great or beneficial. Some of them were business. They were these businesses that were, we were developing bespoke custom software, for example, that really was okay, but at the end of the day, it didn't really make life that much better. We were kind of competing in a saturated market. Products that we were trying to help other people sell really weren't all that great. It was, snack foods, but some of that stuff just really isn't all that great for you. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I'm sure everyone else on earth has an opinion about snack food, but what I'm trying to like get into here simply is that I'm looking at this project from the perspective of like something that's legacy worthy. And I think the last near decade of working in and around crypto in general, Bitcoin primarily, but because of my software background, I'm very interested in the potential that all kinds of crypto type projects have. And there's, opinions aside about whether one project has more merit or value than another. Just like anything in life, there's good stuff, there's stuff that's kind of in the middle, and then there's not so great stuff. So what we're trying to focus on here is that there are a lot of really good projects in the world, and it's not really for me or anyone else to decide like who and what, who likes what. So circling back around, what we're trying to accomplish here is we made a list of really bold statements that I'll touch on here that you'll see on the screen. And it's kind of our mission statement as it exists today. And it's kind of our mission statement as it exists today. And it looks around having some sort of, I'll almost call it like a generational impact on humanity, and thinking that myself and Josh, that we could somehow get even close to this is it's very frightening, but very exciting at the same time. This idea that we could personally have an influence on onboarding a million or more people, new people, in such a small period of time, but certainly possible. Don't know how likely, but onboarding a million new people and exposing them to all of the excellent things that are happening in and we call it the crypto ecosystem. But usually there's a starting point for someone. With me, it was Bitcoin, and shortly after that was learning about Ethereum and learning about the differences between the two, and then watching them develop over the years and learning about other types of crypto projects that some are great, some are right in the middle, kind of cool, maybe not, and some are just not. Again, it's just my opinion. Some of them don't interest me, and some of them exist to try and take advantage of other people, but that's in any facet of life. Anyway, we want to try and onboard as many people as we can and show them the light. And the reason, or one of the driving forces, is that there was a time when I didn't know what Bitcoin was, and I was going through life, and this was happening in the world, and I didn't have any idea. And then once I found out, I got really, really, really interested and really excited about it. And I just thought, man, and I think now more than anything else, what if somebody hadn't taken the time, or what if the circumstances weren't present, or the universe and all of the cosmos and all of the things in the quantum spaces and the things didn't align in such a way that I would have found out about this when I did. How would I feel about that now? And the answer is I wouldn't feel so great about it, but having foreknowledge is, I mean, it's easy to look back, of course, hindsight's 2020, but what I'm trying to say is that I feel compelled and driven at a level that I don't fully know how to communicate, to the point that I'm sitting here at 6:39 p.m. It's March 1st. It's Eastern time. It's getting dark. People are winding down for the day. I'm getting wound up about what we're trying to accomplish here. And the other thing that we think that we can contribute to the ecosystem and to others in the world is to try to be an agent or a catalyst of change, insofar as trying to build a community or facilitate community with people from all walks of life, all levels of experience, and be the thing that helps get them over the hump, or the thing that is perhaps blocking them, or like standing in their way, and help get that thing out of the way, whatever that is, whether it's something in the mind, or if there's something geographical or something political or social, or in the family unit, or in business, or in life, in a social circle. Just try to really be welcoming and help people that want to be helped, quite frankly, on the other side of that. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, all are welcome, but what we really want is people that are interested in learning, and we want to try and share our knowledge. And Josh will get into this on future broadcasts and future videos. The other thing is we want to build a platform that's going to be it's not just sharing information, but really putting financial firepower into people's hands in the form of information, and making them aware of things that are available to them. One of those topics that is really just, I still feel like I'm on the very edge of starting to understand this concept of DeFi, or decentralized finance. And I'll tell you, the more I learn, I mean, literally every day of the week, it doesn't matter what day it is, I'm learning something. I'm learning just a little bit more than I knew the day before, and it's really, really exciting to think that things like this, that just a few years ago, say 6 years ago, or 5 or 10 or 11 years ago, couldn't have dreamed of, that are now accessible to people basically around the world. Um, Whether you like Coinbase or not, I'm going to reference something. If you're a Coinbase user, then you're probably familiar with the Coinbase app, or if you're in the web browser interface, they have information like articles, like basically a news feed. But they had this really interesting piece on DeFi, or decentralized finance. I thought that the breakdown explanation of it was very good, and I'll encourage you to either Google that. It's on there. It's a publicly available page. You don't have to be a customer or user of that platform to consume this particular piece of content. But what was interesting about it is that it was a no nonsense, simple approach to explaining what an introductory. It was basically an introduction to DeFi, and I thought it was really interesting. And I won't spoil it for you. I'll just encourage you to do some research if you've heard the term and your curiosity is a little bit piqued. That would be a great starting point. So, in line with trying to educate and empower the individual in this case, then that would be something I would encourage you to, and I am encouraging you. And really, last but not least, this idea of the world is, as not to sound like a meme, but the world is changing, and the way that people take their money and put it to work is changing. The fundamental layers here, or the foundations are shaking a little bit. It's a very interesting time. I thought it was interesting a couple of years ago when everyday guys and gals, people like me, could log on to something like an E-Trade and I could buy my own stocks if there was something. And then the Robinhood generation, being able to participate and buy the companies that I'm literally buy shares and own a piece of a company like a Tesla or an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft. I could own a piece of that for myself. And there was something really exciting and powerful, in my opinion. It was energizing. That's the word I was trying to think of. This is really energizing stuff for myself and Josh. And when he's here on the next broadcast, I'll ask him to talk a little bit about how energizing it really is for him, because we share this passion. And I hope that it is coming across, and then it continues to come across, and that we can be of value moving forward. So anyway, I'll apologizing again for the technical snafu at the beginning of the broadcast. The microphone wasn't turned on, but hey, we can't cry over spilled milk. Wanted to just point out that there's a interesting tweet that I learned about earlier. So one question that I've gotten a lot over the last several weeks is, why is Bitcoin moving up? Why is price? And I'm going to pull up a chart here. If you look, you don't even need to know where the dates are, but this is like back in November. This is where FTX hit the FTX hit the fan. Back here in November, this is the Bitcoin US dollar price came way down. It's looked pretty bleak, honestly, for a little while there. But then at the beginning of the year, it seems that something changed and Bitcoin prices started to go up. And there's a lot of people are asking the question, well, why? Like, what's different? And there's any number of opinions. We all have a thesis, perhaps, but there's this idea of what's called like our central bank. I'm trying to communicate this simply. Central bank liquidity, or central banks like the PBOC in China, or the Federal Reserve here in the U.S., or the BOE, Bank of England, or the BOJ, Bank of Japan. Our individual monetary systems at the nation state level all interact together at the global level to constitute the global financial system. But what I'm trying to communicate here is that it appears that if we look at this other chart here, this person, the Kush here, who put together this or located this chart, they basically took the question is, what are we looking at here? And I'll do my best to kind of simply explain it, is that when you look at these things like the M2, the EU M2, the Euro, JPM, all of these pieces, these elements in this calculation up here, this is basically, and we can read it together, is there has been a large injection of what we'll call global liquidity. That means that the amount of available capital in the financial system went up pretty drastically in comparison to the previous period here. And I think this is a weekly, each one of these little bars is a week's worth of time. So we see that last year, starting in May, or even a little bit earlier, the levels of additional money that was being made available in the financial system were creeping up until it reached a point where we've come back to now, but it started to decline, and it declined even further. And then right at the beginning of the year, it seems that it started to increase. And so when you look at the Bitcoin chart, for example, at the beginning of 2023, we were at 16.5 per Bitcoin in US dollar terms. Over here, at the beginning of the year, we see large influxes or large injections of excess cash or money into the financial system. One might hypothesize that with the easily available or more easily available money being made available to people around the world, that a lot of that money has been making its way into crypto assets. If we look at the Ethereum chart, it's kind of a similar story. You can always identify where FTX occurred right here. But right at the beginning of the year, all of this buying pressure started coming in. And we've been grinding a little bit higher. But we basically reached this previous level here from last October. We started last October in Ethereum at 1290s, ended the month in the 1640s, then promptly came back down and got basically around 1,000 during the FTX fallout. But right at the beginning of the year, similar story here. Let's take a look at, let's see if there's anything else here. Say Bitcoin Cash, not really. Well, you can kind of see I don't really follow Bitcoin Cash very closely, but you can see that it was affected to a certain extent. I mean, you might call it very affected by the FTX thing last year, but similar move higher here. This chart suggests that when central banks who produce the monetary units go about their operations where they make more cash, more money available, that it tends to follow the path of least resistance, kind of like electricity. It follows the path of least resistance, and prices have started to move up in risk assets or things that are perceived to be. I'll contrast that, though, to talk about stocks for a second. See that the NASDAQ didn't really react too terribly. It recovered, like when FTX happened, came off that's a pretty big move down in November, but we reclaimed that relatively quickly. But then at the end of the year, there was a bit of a sell-off. And then lo and behold, the beginning of the year, start to get more central bank liquidity, money coming into the system. NASDAQ starts to move higher. It gets all, if you just blindly purchased, you threw all your money on the NASDAQ on January 1 and then decided to sell it at January 31st, you had effectively 1,000-point move in the NASDAQ, and you would have made a considerable amount of money. Now, since we got off February and the Nasdaq got a pretty good start, but you see we've come back down a little bit, and I think there's lots of factors that affect the stock market that don't necessarily affect crypto and vice versa. But the point I wanted to make out, or the point that I wanted to lay out here, is that this is an interesting thing that we're going to do a better job of tracking moving forward, and see if there's any correlation between the amount of money supply and how it affects crypto prices, equities, and other things like bonds. So anyway, circling back around, what we're trying to accomplish, we want to help people understand and learn what they can, or the things that will help benefit them in their life in the crypto space. There's lots of cool stuff. Really excited to talk more about it, but I'm going to wrap it up for this evening. I'll thank you all for joining, and I will see